Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Tommy's Takes. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and for that, I appreciate you. We'll get right into it. We're going to talk about today reasons to be excited for the 2022 season for the New York Giants. Now, before we get into that, totally understand the reason if there's some pessimism out there. Hasn't been an easy decade for us. One playoff appearance, 5 consecutive losing seasons, 22 and 56 over that span. Record since 2017 is 22 and 56, 31st in the NFL over that time. Point differential, 27th in the NFL over that time. 5 straight seasons with double-digit losses. So hasn't been pretty. When you talk about, renewed energy after the Judge hire, everyone was excited. Everyone was pumped up. We had the Seahawks win in Seattle, which was a big win. We all remember Wayne Gallman dashing on the left sideline. And everybody's sitting here thinking, hey, this is it. We're turning it around. We're on the right track. We got our new head coach. We're good to go. And unfortunately, that wasn't to be. The wheels would fall off the next season, which was 2021. Very tough, difficult season. Obviously, our offense struggled mightily. Injuries, once again, were nipping and hitting the bud. But I want to talk about why we're going to get excited, why we're going to get pumped, why this season is different from the others, and why, hey, you could play pessimist all you want, but I got some reasons for you to get excited. We're going to get right into it. The first reason, offensive line, right? Offensive line has been the Giants' Achilles heel for as long as, I'd say, a decade. Going back to the 2011 Super Bowl. This offseason, Joe Shane, our brand new GM, did a great job with limited resources of rebuilding that offensive line. We saw departures in Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, Billy Price, and brought in additions of John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky, Evan Neal, Jamil Douglas. Essentially rebuilt the offensive line in one offseason, except for one starter and Andrew Thomas. Really remarkable job by Joe Shane. Very impressive. I think that's just a little hint of what's to come from Joe Shane and the way he runs a football team. Very impressed with what he's done. But the thing is, can they play when the lights get on? We got Bobby Johnson, our new offensive line coach. He's big guy talking, he's going to be out there. He's calling them dirt bags. He's excited. He's getting pumped. We seen him at the combine coaching these kids up. I really like his energy, really like his attitude. While the Bills weren't the greatest offensive line when he was there, they ranked 17th in 2019. They ranked, I believe it was 10th 2020, and then 14th last season, 2021. But all that aside, I think he's going to bring an energy. He's going to bring a toughness here that we really haven't seen. We had a lot of stuff going on with Mark Colombo and the fight with Joe Judge, and never seemed to really settle that unit down. And the second part of that was depth. We actually have depth for our offensive line this year. What an amazing thing, right? So we got some guys that could come off the bench. You have Shane Lemieux, Nick Gates when he comes back healthy, Matt Pert when he comes back healthy. We got the young kids, Marcus McKeaton, Josh Azudu. We got some guys on the line. I think that's a major reason to be excited. We're not going into the season picking guys out of the parking lot to play, center and right guard. That's one big reason to be excited. And PFF, whether you like their ratings, you don't like their ratings, actually have the Giants offensive line ranked 18th coming into the 2022 season year. I think that's another reason to be excited, because even if you don't like their rankings, it does give you kind of a ballpark area, and we finished 30th last season in offensive line. So that's a big reason. I'm super pumped about that. When you really look at things from that perspective, that's such a huge positive going in that direction. So I think that's one thing to look at. If you really want to pinpoint some things when it comes to this team's struggles the last decade, you could put a lot on the offensive line for the latter part of Eli Manning's career. You could put the offensive line for some of Daniel Jones' struggles, not all. We'll get into that in another episode. But you could put that on the offensive line. This line has struggled. I think this year is going to be different for them. They have depth. They have some talent. I love the 2 rookies we drafted. I think they're going to play a big role down the stretch, whether it's swing tackles, swing guards. We have the guys. Just got to stay healthy. But that's key number 1, offensive line, reasons to be excited for the upcoming season. Now we'll go to reason number 2, the schedule. The Giants currently right now have the number 1 ranked easiest schedule going into 2022. Now, we all know that could change. Schedule rankings before the season starts, could look completely different at the end of the year with injuries, teams nobody expected to play well. But really looking into it, we had the 5th hardest schedule last season, coming off a 6-10 campaign, which neither here nor there why our schedule was so hard, but it was a difficult one. A couple key points I got for the schedule for this year is we played Chicago and Carolina 2 out of the first 4. I think those are 2 we could take. If you're looking at 2-2 coming out of that 4-game stretch, you also have the Jags and Texans 2 out of the next 4. If you could win those 2, that's 4-4. You have a game versus the Lions, which is definitely a winnable game. Not guaranteed by any means because, have we played for the longest now. Then we go into a series of divisional games, 4 straight divisional games. If the Giants could even split those divisional games, you're looking at a 6-6 record after 12 games, something that a lot of people are not expecting us to do. I think we have a great opportunity to do that. That being said, we then go into a Vikings, Colts, Eagles stretch, which is going to be tough. That's to end the season. But listen, not putting no pressure on the team. This season is all about rebuilding. I know Joe Shane said he wants to rebuild while he competes and all that jazz. That's fine. But Giants fans do want wins, and we want progress. One of the key things, and I heard somebody mention this on Twitter today, is just win down the stretch. Go into 2023 with some momentum. Carry that with you, and that's critical for us. But I think this schedule will allow us to do that. We have only one traditional primetime game that is versus Dallas. To me, that's another positive. Everybody knows primetime has been a house of horrors for the Giants throughout this decade of disaster. Everybody knows it's been rough, so I'm excited not to have any primetime games right now, even though I do love primetime games. Seeing your team trot out there on national TV and get destroyed, not a pleasant feeling, not great for morale for the fan base or the team. So again, that's another positive. That's key number 2. I think the schedule gives us a shot to rebuild and compete. Again, and you'll probably hear me say this maybe once per Tommy's Takes, need to stay healthy. We got the news today that Daniel Bellinger tweaked the quad. He's going to go on the PUP list. Not a huge deal, but does kind of trigger that remembrance of, hey, we're the most injured team over the last 5 years, us and the Jets. But stay healthy, and that's going to lead me into number 3. And this is probably the most important one to me. This is one that I saved for last, vision and direction. We all know over the last 10 years, we've had staggered leadership, whether it's firing the coach, keeping the GM, vice versa. We all know John Mara has had his hand in the pot, so to speak. There's been, accusations of nepotism with Chris Mara and some other individuals in the organization. When Joe Judge was let go and Dave Gettleman retired, we were all worried. Who was it going to be? Kevin Abrams? Was it going to be Chris Mara? Was it going to be the good old boys club? To me, this right here is the number one reason to be excited about the 2022 season for the New York Giants. We have a head coach and a general manager with an aligned vision and aligned focus. They're not playing on borrowed time. One doesn't have a year to make things happen and the other one has 3 years. To me, that was always a significant issue for the New York Giants. You have to have leadership on the same terms when it comes to expectations and when it comes to what they need to do. So super pumped for that. When you really look at it and you look deep, these are 2 individuals, and Joe Shane and Brian DeBall, that came from Buffalo, that have that chemistry between them, that have that communication level between them. That is so critical. And we've all talked about this for the longest time. When you hire a head coach and the GM is still remaining from the previous regime, it causes issues. When you get rid of the general manager but you keep the head coach and the GM has to take over that head coach, that causes issues. That's been a huge problem for this team for the longest time. That's why my number 3, even though it's really number 1 in my book, is the vision and direction all going in the same way. And that's something to be excited about. That's something as Giants fans you guys should be pumped about, because we, whether it's a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, they're both on the same plan. So essentially when they're looking at a player, say in the top 10, top 5, they're not necessarily worried about a win now guy because one has 1 year left on his contract as the head coach or the GM. So that's critical. And that's something that, when you look at the teams that are successful, their leadership typically has that in place. GM and head coach came at the same time. Now, you could also look at this like, hey, well, the quarterback is still there. They have to take the quarterback. No, because Daniel Jones' 5th-year option was declined, and he's playing on a 1-year deal. There's no connections there after that. There's no sentimental ties to keeping him there. So I think that's another good thing. Whether you like Jones, if you like Jones, hey, He needs to go out there and play, make it happen, earn that contract. If you don't like Jones, this is the perfect situation. You don't have a regime that's tied to him, that had any part to drafting him, that feels bad for the kid. And whether you feel bad for him or not, Joe Shane and Brian DeBall are not going to worry about it. It is what it is. They want a quarterback that could play. And I think that's why this is the most important factor to be excited. You have a head coach, you have a GM aligned, ready to fight for this team with the same direction, the same mindset, and we don't have to worry about the staggered leadership anymore. To me, those are the three components to be excited about the 2022 New York Giants season. Get pumped, get excited. We got an improved O-line. We have an easier schedule than we had in probably the last 5 years, and we have a leadership team all on the same page. So get ready for 2022. Thank you, guys. This was a first inaugural special episode of Tommy's Takes. Again, just want to thank all my supporters out there. This has been an awesome, quick ride for me. Really appreciate you guys. We're gonna have some fun on this show. We're gonna talk Giants. We're gonna dig in. We're gonna really dig deep once the season starts. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night.